Everybody, it's Friday, July the 26th, 2024, and this is How to Restart a Church, a spin-off podcast where I, Pastor Trey Comstock, my friend and colleague, Pastor Emily Larson, talk about how to make church happen and how to make church happen again. This week is another check-in with what's up with nuns, not N-U-Ns, N-O-N-E-S's. What's up with NUNs is that the Catholic Church is telling nuns and monks to show that their life is more fun, to be nuns and monks are being encouraged to be more social media savvy, so that the next generation will want to become nuns and monks.
It's the nun calendars, right? It's the nuns having fun calendars. Is getting
nuns having fun. There was
up.
one called Nuns with Guns that I saw once that I thought was pretty insane. But so now they're trying to do the Twitter version or the TikTok version of nuns having fun. Because I suspect that there is a lot, that I suspect nuns are having more fun than most people think nuns are having. I know monks are having more fun.
Yes. Having
spent a very brief amount of time at monasteries over the years. They're having more fun because in the end, it is, it's a spiritually focused single gender dormitory that you live in forever.
Yep.
I mean, it's actually not that's not
a bad sales pitch,
right? It's not a bad thing. It is. What if you could live forever in a spiritually focused single gender dormitory? That's what it is.
Yep.
And then you have vocations, and you work together and whatever. But in the end, it's like going to Christian women's college forever. And I understand that that's not everybody's pitch of fun, but that does sound more fun than you normally envision. Anyways, this is not. Yes. We're not actually. Here
not
to
actually
talk
what
about
it's about today, but yes,
that came across my feeds, and I'm like, I bet nuns are having fun. Anyway, so today we're looking at an article from a Substack called graphsabout.religion.com, written by Ryan Burge. This is one of those articles about church world that floated across our feeds, and this article is entitled "We Asked the Nuns (N-O-N-E-S's) a bunch of questions about leaving religion." And so this, Ryan and his website /Substack, graphsabout.religion.com, work together with the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which is a deliberately non-religious advocacy that stresses the freedom of religion is also freedom from religion. So this is coming from deliberately outside of church world.
Right.
So this is a look at nuns from an organization, a political move, the way that United Methodist Church has the General Board of Church and Society, that with an office in Washington, D.C. to be our lobbying arm. This is in a real way trying to be a lobbying arm for non-religious people. So that's So Ryan Burge, this guy with this cool Substack, is working with this people who are very much outside of church world to get some data on these people who are leaving, these people who are nuns. And so specifically, they ran two things. They did a random sample survey of non-religious Americans using Qualtrics, there we go, platform. With about 2,400 responses. And then they also did a survey of 11,000 members of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. But the data we're looking at today comes from that first group, from the 2,400 responses on Qualtrics, which is a data collection platform specifically looking at non-religious Americans.
Yes.
And there's a bunch. We're going to link the article in the show notes. So whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or listening to the podcast, just check the episode description or whatever, and the link to this article. It'll even read it to you. It'll take 7 minutes and 13 seconds. What stood out to me is there's a graph. The kind of last graph that he looks at is like the question, did you choose to leave religion for any of these reasons? Choose as many as apply. And the options were religious hypocrisy. I'm going to read them in order of they were selected. Religious hypocrisy, religion doesn't make sense, religious bigotry, harm caused religion in the broader world, science, lack of evidence, prejudice against LGBTQ people, harm caused by religion to me or people I know, I moved away and just never went back, reading the Bible, reading skeptical authors, other reasons. Now, okay, so I have like a background in social sciences research. And so there is not a flaw, but you got to understand that because this is quantitative data,
right,
the answers are suggested.
Yes.
This is different than if I were doing this, I would do this qualitatively and I would just ask open-ended.
Right.
If you left religion, why did you leave religion?
Yeah, leave it as a fill in the blank instead of a check as many boxes as you want, because that does give you a lead.
And so that's just, it's not a flaw, it's just a limitation in this design. So you anytime you are introducing suggested answers, you are getting slightly further away from a true response. But this is for the sake of being able to crunch numbers on it. Like a qualitative study is, this is what all of my I was a qual, not a quant. What a shock. I wanted to talk to people, not look at numbers. I know, it's shocking. So anyway, I don't, this is not, just understand that's a limitation here.
Right.
So this is decent data, but I suspect some of these responses would be more nuanced if we were having this conversation. So like, what does it mean that science led you to not be religious anymore? Like,
right. What about that?
What's up with that?
Yeah.
What experiences did you have that did you have a Sunday school teacher that had told you that, like, yeah, no, the dinosaurs were around a few thousand years ago alongside model animals, and you went, well, that's not what my dinosaur book geared towards 5-year-olds, because my dinosaur book geared towards 5-year-olds said they lived 65 million years ago, and if someone, and I was blessed that I never had a Sunday school teacher that told me the earth was 10,000 years old.
Right.
Because it isn't.
Same.
It's a few billion years old. And so, like, I never had that moment. I didn't get introduced to any of that stuff until I was much older and much more like, yeah, no. Dinosaurs lived 65 million years ago and then they died from an asteroid. That's what happened. So, some of these responses are difficult to tease out their meaning. I would love to know the people who left religion because they read the Bible, and did they read the book of Joshua, and that's why. Right.
Reading the Bible was 9% of people. This was 10% of people checked reading the Bible. But see, I see those as connected too to, like, okay, did you read the Bible and that's what made you realize there was religious bigotry or religious hypocrisy? Like, some of these could go hand in hand. And so this is where the quantitative versus qualitative is tricky, because checking those boxes, some of these are very similar or the same. Is lack of evidence in science could go together, harm caused by religion to me or people I know through religious bigotry. But I do like that, like, reading skeptical authors, like, this, it's like nothing.
It's nothing.
It's almost
take
nothing.
That, Dawkins. It's still not you.
It's still not you.
It's still not you, Dawkins. Like, bite me. I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, I'm just sorry. I'm now sorry because the actual takeaway here, other than, I can pick apart this study all day. I don't actually think it's a bad study. I just want to make sure we're going into this with, like, okay, so there is, like, a limitation in this study design that he doesn't highlight in talking about this.
Right.
That these are really qualitative questions.
Yes.
Is most of the things in most of the top 5 and most of the big vote getters are things that we shouldn't be doing that we are doing.
Yeah, that we need to look inward.
Are not innate to religion, because like religion doesn't make sense. I'll be honest. Part of the life of faith is grappling with things that don't make sense, but that's not number one. In a logical world, that should be number one. Lord knows that's the thing that is among the things that are hardest for me in the life of faith.
Right.
But it's number 2 at 35% of respondents.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, by a good margin, with 42% of respondents, religious hypocrisy.
Yep.
It is. And again, we don't have, this is quantitative data, so we can't tease out that means. But fundamentally, that means that we are talking one way and we are living another way.
Yep.
And people see that and go, and then the Bible spends a lot of time talking about this too.
Yep.
You know, Lord knows Paul has some thoughts on hypocrites. Jesus has some thoughts on hypocrites.
Yep.
And apparently, according to 42% of people who left religion, according to this, within this bounds of the study, we're still doing it to a troubling degree.
Yes.
And then jump down to 31% of respondents, religious bigotry.
Right.
This is, again, like a religion where built on a guy that looked at a woman caught in adultery who should be killed and going, don't do it, but like, you're good. Mm-hmm. Like, no. So, you know, who like welcomed the zealot and the tax collector and the, you know,
Yep.
whatever, right? Like, had a major disciple go on to be a gospel writer who was a tax collector.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this,
But that's that, and usually it's a personal experience, right?
Yeah.
It's a personal experience with someone or someone you knew. It's that harm caused by religion to me or people that I know, right?
or the broader world, right? Like,
Right.
you know, 28% of people looked at this thing that is meant to be a fount of good in the world and said, no, actually, this is doing harm.
Right.
And then for 19% of people, it was, and it did harm to me or people I know.
Yep.
Like, those are the ones that, you know, again, it is, if you look at the top 5, one is, you know, number 5 is science at 28. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, like, that's on us too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that is certainly about particular Christian narratives.
Right.
That trouble me, that would drive me, you know, that sometimes want me to pack up and go home too. Mm-hmm. But even if, like, you know, I believe in the bodily resurrection of Christ, and I, you know, believe in the healing miracles, and that does push my science brain, and you know, that goes back to religion doesn't make sense. You're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't. There's a reason we call some things this holy mystery, right? Like there is a reason.
But if you look at the top 5, 2 are ones that, like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. Especially if you are being presented a version of faith utterly divorced from the world of science,
right.
and you know, like I do, believe in
science. Yeah.
And evidence.
Yes.
And you're being told that the dinosaurs walked the earth 6,000 years ago or 10,000 years or whatever. And you go,
right.
No. Mm-mm. Right. And then religion doesn't make sense. Word, dog. It doesn't always.
For sure.
I get it. Mm-hmm. But that's only 2 of the top 5. The other 3, hypocrisy, bigotry, harm caused in the broader world.
Yep.
That is on us.
Yes. That is, we need to be looking very closely in the mirror at what the world sees when they look at us, right? And I thought the other graph that I found really, really, really interesting in this study was the sample size, that how old were you when you left religion?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
The majority, as in like 52%, so the majority left between the ages of 15 and 25. Like that is our Gen Zs, right? That is 100%
and
this generation.
And a whole bunch of them left before that too, right?
Yes.
And so if you actually look at the post 25 on this graph, like it really tails off. Like it starts spiking like
preteen
at 10.
Yeah.
Like pre-teens, and then ends at 25.
Yep.
And so if you look at like all of that, like birth to 25, that is the vast majority of the people who left.
Yeah, 40% of the sample left religion by their 16th birthday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then from 25 to 15, from 15 to 25, so essentially from there to 25 is another 52%. So again, you run this, and this is like 80, 90%. We're
right.
80 something. We are losing before they hit 25.
Yes.
Before they hit, by the way, the age that we as the church think we're good at.
Yeah.
Right? We are built for young families.
Right.
Now, apparently, we're not doing a great job of actually reaching the children.
Right.
But we have this like skill set. And where we're losing folks is where we've always known. We used to call it the donut hole. I don't know if we call it the donut hole
anymore. Black hole of college ministry? Yeah.
Right, yeah. But like it is that like teens through 30.
Mm-hmm.
It is when you are a teen to a college student to a young adult, and then maybe, and we'll see what happens. We'll get you back when you're 30. But like that's a bad.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you're right. This is the other piece of if we're talking about like ministry and we're talking about like having conversations with people, some of it is we had Kyle Tremblay on, whatever that was some time in the past. We had Kyle Tremblay on talking about his work at the Wesley Foundation at Lamar University and how the like utterly different approach to ministry that he takes to take seriously this age group.
Yes.
That are, confirmed that they, like all humans, are, spiritually seeking, but they come in with a lot of these assumptions about us that, frankly, we've lived up to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the ideas of hypocrisy, bigotry, and harm didn't come from nowhere.
Right.
And that there is like a different way of doing it. Also, and we see this, it's not just in our denomination, but certainly in our denomination, we see a divestment of college ministry because shockingly it doesn't, much like our church, it doesn't pay for itself.
Nope.
Right? Like college ministry is a money hole.
Yep.
Because here's a fun fact, college students famously broke.
Definitely broke.
Just broke. I used to, and I was not broke. I was just dumb. But so there were like leftover Starbucks cakes that would like show up at the Wesley house, and I would like live off those for a while because feeding yourself in college is difficult. That's why the free food's so important. But like Wesley foundations are inherent. College ministries, we have Wesley foundations. Mm-hmm. They're inherently money pits.
Yes.
Because weirdly, college students don't tithe, and if they do, you don't want you're gonna tithe 10% of your ramen.
Right.
That's actually what we should start doing. Hey, bring 10% of your ramen. There's my friend Steve who ate so much ramen in grad school that he went to the hospital. Weirdly, you think it's the sodium. You think it's the sodium. It's not the sodium. It was the iron deficiency.
Yep. Yep, that'll do it.
It was the iron deficiency. He went to the hospital with an iron deficiency.
Oh my goodness.
From eating ramen for 2.5 square a day.
Don't just eat ramen.
So the fame, this world where we back off on funding what are money pits?
Right.
We're a money pit. Let's be clear. We're a money pit too.
Yes.
Again, we talk about that a lot on this show. It's my ever-living anxiety. We're an absolute money pit. How to lose $190,000 in 6 months. That's us.
We're good at that.
We're good at that. So we're also a money pit. Absolutely. But it is also representing this kind of very key age group for thinking about, okay, when are people naturally, and we want them to, exploring ideas?
Right.
That's what being a young person is about, is finding yourself, is finding what you want to do in the world, finding what are your values. You grew up in one value set. Is that still your value set? Mm-hmm. These are natural things these are not bad things.
Right.
But when we either run super dogmatic college ministry or youth and college ministry, or don't do the work to have our voice in the mix.
Yes.
To not be in the field of ideas. When we don't even do the work to take the field, to have our voice in there.
Right.
To be in that here's the word I'm looking at. To be in that conversation.
Right.
Again, not to do this in the kind of open-minded, non-dogmatic ways that I think Kyle did a great job, continues to do, like a great job exemplifying.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're gonna, like, if this is where we're losing folks from the ages of 10 to 25. That's where we're losing it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that, I think, is how we do ministry. But particularly when we go to college, you know, we are pulling back from, because of cost savings,
right,
from that ministry. And that is, you know, oh, what are we gonna do? Just get them back later? Like, this is,
yeah. Well, because
you know,
it used to be, well, they'll come back when they have kids, because when you have kids and you want to get them baptized, you take them back to the church. But this generation is also famously not having children. Like,
well, but also this is, as we've talked about before, that's not in this study, but we've talked about before, you know, if you think about, like, for you and I, we grew up with boomer parents,
right,
who did go to church.
Yes.
And then both of us are also the product of a college ministry. And
yes.
so I have no counterfact. I don't know what my life would be like if, you know, if Murph and Karen hadn't knocked on my dorm room door at William and Mary and invited me to come to the Wesley house. I think
right.
I think I had kind of thought, like, oh, I think I'll do the Wesley, but I don't know what would happen if Murph and Karen hadn't knocked on my door, because Murph and Karen knocked on my door.
Right.
And, you know, I went once and essentially never left.
Praise God for Murph and Karen of the world.
Thank God for Murph and Karen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know that version of my life.
Right.
But if you think about the millennials, folks our age, who are, many of whom are pushing 40, I'm told.
Getting closer.
It's the part of the year we're the same age. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to think about it. Anyways, so for a lot of our peers who left and never went back, now, you know what? I have a 9-year-old. You have a 3-year-old, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, for those kids, those alphas are not being raised in the church.
Right.
And so there's no back to.
Right.
We talked about this with Kyle. You know, the work I did on the U of H campus last year, we had to operate on the assumption that this was an evangelistic arm,
right,
not Youth Group 2.0.
Right.
And that's for Gen Zs.
Yes. That is the understanding that they are not going to know who Moses is. They're not going to know
right.
who Jesus is necessarily, right? Like, you've got to start at square one. And then that a lot of their opinions are being made by the vibes that you're giving off, right? We've talked about, like, what if the vibes are good? That's the, you know, good starting place. But, like, a lot of times our vibes are not good, right? We're looking at this as a black hole, as a money pit, as a let's just get these people back into the church, as a reason to, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but as a number, right? As a person in a pew instead of as a disciple.
Giving
and a
unit, please use the right words.
Oh,
it's a giving
that's
unit.
That's the word I'm
it's
probably trying to avoid. It's giving unit.
You are looking for giving units.
That's my ick word. So
oh,
yes.
I hate it. Oh, God.
Absolute ick word. But also true.
But they're also picking up. I think this is all connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, as you are, like, becoming more aware of the world from the ages of 10 to 25.
Yes.
Right? You are experiencing religion in the public square.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently what you're seeing is bigotry.
Right.
Is
not good.
The ways religion has caused harm. You have, you know, we really need to watch Saved. We need to do this. We need to do the, like, movie review of the movie Saved, because all I am thinking about is Hilary Faye in that movie, who is trying to save her friend and instead throws a Bible at her.
Yeah.
Like,
mm-hmm.
That's the like, you see the hypocrisy. Like, you had the kid, you know, you had the family that was, like, super judgy of other people's behavior, and then we're not any better. Like,
right.
we are, we're shooting ourselves in the foot with the folks who don't have an experience of church.
Right.
Or they left the church very, very young, and they stopped believing. They became non-religious very young. And then they look out at the ways in which we move in the broader society, and lo and behold, they, like me, don't like what they see.
Right.
I don't like the vibes. The vibes aren't good.
The vibes aren't always good, man. This is true. And taking that good, hard, long look in the mirror and going, hey, man, why are the vibes off? Right? We talk a lot on the show about being authentic, about being real with people.
Yeah.
Because so much of that hypocrisy and bigotry has been glazed over or has been, made to look pretty, when really this is an ugly side that we should face and repent of.
Well, we spend as a religion, as the often the public facing arm of this religion, we spend so much time on a moral high horse.
Yes.
About whatever,
everything.
Whether they be, issues of, we love issues particularly around sexual purity.
Right.
So sure. But like, we love to get on the high horse. And then, as comes up often in my brain, and then what pastor is going to go down for fraud or sexual abuse this week? Right? Like, I am tempted to do a Google News search right now, live on air. Fact checking is the death of podcasting.
Yeah.
News.google.com.
Yeah.
I'm just going to search the words pastor caught. Okay? We're going to do this live.
This is the righteous gemstones, right? This is the pastors. What pastor got caught this week? Doing what? Absolutely.
3 days ago, Texas church led by pro-Trump pastor catches fire. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Palmetto pastor faces additional sex charge. That was June 27th. April 30th, North Louisiana pastor arrested in Shreveport on drug charges. May 26th, pastor arrested after extensive sexual assault investigation. That one, these are dotting over the country. Here's one in Charlotte. Here's that Louisiana pastor again. Exposed himself to undercover officers.
Ugh.
Ruston pastor alleged after it's the same one. Okay, so often.
Too often.
Often. I do not want to save this search. I don't want to know. It's like, and again, like that contributes to the bad vibes. And
right.
I know my own sin is I judge pastors who get caught in moral scandals.
Right.
Like, this is a thing that I need to work on with God.
Same.
But also,
mm-hmm.
That when Paul in advising Timothy about the nature of leading a church. This is Paul's farewell address. Paul in advising Timothy about what it be like. And this is 2,000 years ago. It's in the New Testament. Look it up. If you read 1st and 2nd Timothy, neither of these letters very long. One of the things that those letters deal with is, so you want to be a church leader, you have to have your stuff in order.
Yes.
Because it turns out what was true 2,000 years ago remains true, and they didn't need Google News alerts because none of these cities were huge. And
right.
And everyone was in the Agora. That was
everybody knew everybody's business. Yes.
Everybody knew everybody's business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, there is, from the New Testament witness on forward, well, yes, grace exists for like on a spiritual level for pastors and church leaders. When you want to take on the mantle of being someone who's going to be publicly churchy,
yes,
you are also now, like, you may be the only Bible that anyone ever reads.
Right.
Just one of those, like, you know, really trite phrases. So you may be the
But
only
true.
example of Christian morality that anybody sees.
Yes. And this is that conversation we've had. Who was it that said, you know, why aren't we better? Right? We're supposed to be better than the rest
That
of
was
the world.
my
Why aren't we
friend,
better?
my friend Kathleen was like,
Yes.
why aren't we better?
Why aren't we
Yes.
better? And
Why aren't we better?
There are days when I look around at people that I know and or work with, or, you know, are colleagues of mine, and I go, why aren't we better? Like, let's do better, friends. Can we all just try to do better together?
Well, and I just, you know, there was in my own little world of pastoring for a couple of years, there were, I don't know, 2 or 3 folks who lost their pastor positions because of major moral failings. This is, you know, these aren't the kind that are going to make headlines, but, you know, they made little ripples in our own little weird corner of the world. And it's like, I knew that person. I went to church camp with that person. Like it, you know, I am certainly not above sin. I have my own sins too.
Yeah.
But like, all of this should, I would love if it didn't just come down, like, we should probably, like, try to live this religion, but we should probably, like, try to live this religion and also live up to, like, the, you know, all the great Jesus lines about, like, hey, are you perfect? Then shut up.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? I think the woman at the well came up on both shows this week. A woman caught in adultery comes up both shows. But, like, or what's the, like, you know, don't take the speck out of one dude's eye until you take the log out of yours, right? Like, we have a lot of great Jesus lines about processing our own hypocrisy.
About the only person who was qualified to throw a stone didn't.
Right. Jesus, comma, who is perfect, comma. And, like, because a lot of this boils down to we misunderstand where we should be investing our resources and time. And also, the world is looking at the state of our discipleship.
Yes.
Right? Like, in the end, that's what this is about, right? Like, we're looking at the state of our discipleship and finding us lacking. Right? Religious hypocrisy, back to the book from last week, back to seculosity, like, hypocrisy is still not operating a religion of grace. Because, like, what a religion of grace says is, like, I not perfect. Right. And none of us are perfect. And we, you know, to phrase that in a Wesleyan way, we are working towards perfection. Right. Because John really does think we're going to get there. And God love him. I wonder sometimes. Although late life John, better than early life John. And so you certainly see John grow and change. Anyways. Like, if we're practicing religion of grace, our hypocrisy goes down. Not necessarily because our behavior gets drastically better, but because we're not projecting an air of false holiness.
Right. I think it's that false holiness. It's that holier than thou. It is that part that has harmed so much more. It's the old DC Talk quote that they put in their Jesus Freak album. Do you remember that it was the greatest single cause of atheism in the world is Christians? Yeah. Right.
Yes. What the quote that Gandhi didn't say, but is great anyways. I love your Jesus, but I do not like your Christians.
Yep.
Gandhi didn't say that.
Right.
But it's true.
It is so true.
And it is, you know, I think this is where David Zoll, not to talk about the same book twice in 2 weeks, but, like, David Zoll has a great point that when it is a religion of works and then turns out we don't live up to that standard because we can't. Right. And with God's help we can get better, but we're not perfect. Right. But when we project an aura of we are perfect, and then we turn and we judge other people for not being perfect, for not being able to be as sexually pure as they should be, or whatever, right? You know, falling into one of the whatever complicated things of life. And then we project an era of super judgy, moral outrage, satanic panic, whatever. Right. And then, you know, jailed Palmetto pastor faces additional child sex abuse charge,
Ugh.
right? North Weenie as a pastor, Shreveport, and drug charges, right? Like, and then
Heaven
we
help
do
us.
that stuff
Mm-hmm.
when we project that aura of, oh my God, we so perfect.
Right.
Oh my, and this is where, like, I need to stop judging these guys for getting arrested for crimes. I know I do.
Right.
It just makes me very angry because it harms one of the things I love the most, which is Christian community and this faith that can be so transformative and so what the world needs about connection and love and grace.
Yes.
And then South Carolina pastor arrested on 30 felony charges, including indecent liberties with a child, right? Like, a pastor arrested in India after being accused of illegal conversion. Like, it just goes on and on and on. Yes, I have no clean answers here other than they surveyed a whole bunch of non-religious people, and a bunch of non-religious people said they did not lose this faith. They did not lose faith in religion because of Richard Dawkins. Right. Or like weird atheist Reddit, which exists and is actually kind of fascinating to read sometimes. Yeah. It's not atheist Reddit. It's us.
It's us.
It's not the devil. It's not, secularization. Not really. It's not the like powers and principalities. It's not that the world's out to get us. It's apparently that we're setting a really bad example. Yeah. Then
in their breakup text to the church, it's not me, it's you. Church, it's us.
It's us. Mm-hmm. It's us. They're leaving because of us.
Yep.
Either we were insufficiently humble, insufficiently gracious, insufficiently welcoming, insufficiently disciples, in the mainline church, when my favorite book, Non-Verts, we didn't make them care. That's I moved away and I just never went back. Like, those are the mainline kids. I found the mainline kids. The mainline kids are the very small number. Where are they? The 11% that moved away and just never went back. Those are the mainlines. Like, never came back. We did it. Yep. That's us. We're like, I would love that. I would love it. Honestly would love it if religion doesn't make sense as number one, lack of evidence was number two, and science was number three. Because that's a conversation I can have. Yeah. Like that gets to the actual conversation we have about a broader perspective of the universe. Yes. And about wrapping our heads around mystery, and even science contains mystery and whatever. I love those conversations when what we're talking about is, man, this just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm like, word, it doesn't always make sense to me either. Right? I love science. Yes. I would love to talk about the lack of evidence and let's dig into what is even evidence. What do we mean by evidence? And let me talk to you about what I find as a deeply skeptical human. Let me talk to you about my evidence. These are great conversations. Right. These are the conversations we should be having with the world. Not, yeah, I know. Yeah, he got arrested too. Yeah, no, yes. Yeah, we put out that really strongly worded statement about sexual purity. Yeah, no, I know. All those churches are not operating homeless shelters. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, we didn't do that either. No, no, that guy, when Houston flooded, did not open his church until the public pressure hit. Yep. Yeah, no, I know. Millions of dollars. He has a yacht, I think. Yeah, Ferraris. Yeah. And he didn't open the church. Right. We did our best to keep the neighborhood out when the neighborhood changed. Yeah, no, we did that. Yeah. Yeah, we did that. We did that.
We did that.
Yeah. We did that. Yeah, this should feel bleak. Sit in this. I'm sitting in this. I recommend we all sit in this. I have been sitting in this since I read this article at the end of last week. Yep. Sitting in this, of the degree to which that
it should make you
DC
uncomfortable.
Talk was right.
Yes.
It should make you uncomfortable.
It should make us uncomfortable. Be uncomfortable with us.
And unfortunately, like so many of our topics, it at some point comes back to be, in the words of E.T.
Be good.
Be good.
Yes.
Anyways, I would love to know y'all's thoughts on this, or like reflect on the places in our own lives. Like we found my hypocrisy of like, I really have it in for pastors with moral failings. Like this is my hypocrisy. Like I have my own sins. Those just happen to not be my sins. And so I sit in judgment of I do. And it's not great. But like pastors with major moral failings is a problem.
Yes.
Anyways. I would love to hear your thoughts, or like the ones in particular that you feel the need to sit with. thegoodnessofgodpod@gmail.com. That is thegoodnessofgodpod@gmail.com. If you want more of what we've got going on, we've got a lot of stuff going on in a lot of places and even more stuff to come. It's at Servants Now on all the things. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and servantsnow.org on the internet. This show and everything else we do here in the Media Lab is made possible by a generous innovators grant by the Texas Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. If you would like to support us, the biggest thing you can do, like, comment, subscribe, share, leave us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast. All of that makes this show go further, makes it rise in the artificial gods of the algorithm, and makes it more sustainable. It's the modern Agora. Buckle up and go in peace to love and serve the Lord. We'll see you next time.